Good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. Right, let me just adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. A Valentine's bracelet for tonight, although unfortunately I can't finish it because I am missing the clasp, but we can make the bracelet. So this is chainmail lace and it's going to be done using Swarovski, that's a really hard word to say, Swarovski Crystal, which if I don't lose them are these. Now then, let's just check I've got the right number. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 30, which is how many I need. And then Yo Dancer, good evening and welcome to the studio. Now I need 60 of these tiny rings. Let's see what we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 52, 53, 56, 57, 58, 59, and one extra just in case because I can't remember if I counted that one or not. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much, Coyote Dancer. Yes, I noticed. Similar, isn't it? Isn't it Coyote Dancer there rather than Coyote Dancer? But well, if you do, I could even make it on stream for you if you like. Or if you don't want it made on stream, we can not make it on stream. So I've got 60 of those, and now I think I want 60 of these as well. Little, these even tinier rings. That's kind of, it was sort of the problem with me, which is why I end it with Zaragon art rather than just straight Zaragon. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 55, 56, 7, 58, 59, 60. Doesn't actually matter if I've got too many out, it's just makes it a bit easier. Yeah, I couldn't get on some systems. I'm not. The straight Zaragon was used, so it became Zaragon art, which was quite fitting. Obviously, because that's what I do. Right, this is going to be very similar to Special Lady, but instead of having 3 rows of crystals, it's just a single row of crystals. And because these are so small, I need to open them by hand. I can't use the I can't easily use the ring. Especially for the small ones, because basically I think for the small ones I can almost turn it in the slot. So let's try, because it is quicker to use the ring. Well, sort of works. So a quick period of opening rings. So, how are you doing, Coyote Dancer? Or Coyote Dancer? Were you watching the... Well, the original was made for somebody really special, of course. Were you watching the my broadcast from the day before yesterday with the cat? Was it? I noticed a comment tonight that I suspect you forgot you were watching a recording. Now the idea was to, of course, was to do the back of the animal, rather, not just one side or two. I could do 2 different cats, I suppose, one on each side, but the idea was to sort of make it look like a cat on one side and the back of the cat on the other. It kind of surprised me because obviously, well, when I came to just go live now, I saw you commenting there, and I was trying to work out whether it was from the other night and I'd missed it, or quite what it was until I kind of it twigged as to what had happened. But yeah. Well, yep. Hopefully you enjoy watching the rest of it. And as time allows and I get the chance, I'll actually create that as a time lapse as well, so I'll put that onto the YouTube channel as a time lapse. There's a couple of them up there now. There's one pyrography of when I made Felix, I think, which is a 35-minute video, which was a time lapse of about 12 hours. and a bracelet I did not so long ago. I also have just time lapse for a 5-minute time lapse. And if you hear a nachspielig better, night talk is better, I think. Welcome, good evening. If you hear a squeaking in the background, that's Junior. What he's saying, I don't know, but he's saying something. I'm not sure who he's talking to. The invisible person on stairs. Bat Shale. Interesting name. Welcome also to the studio. Thank you for the follow. You know how I don't know if you know cats, but sometimes you'll see a cat in a room and he appears to be appears to be watching something, and you can see watching whatever it is moving around the room, but you can't actually see anything. You know, watching, I don't know what they're watching, and Junior occasionally just meows at things like that, meows at something that you can't see. Of course, sometimes he does it when he's actually facing you, and you can see he's just trying to get your attention or something. And Junior, for some reason, does react to certain pitches of voice. Yeah. Or just pitches of sound. If you sneeze, he always meows. Kind of like he says "bless you" in cat language. And other times, you know, just certain sounds, and he'll squeak back at you. Okay, so this will be a little while I'll just open these rings, but opening them now saves time later and makes the weave go a bit faster. Now this Junior, I wish I could understand what cats were actually saying. And I think it would be fun to know what any animal's actually saying. When, you know, if you could do a Dr. Dolittle and converse with the animals, it would be absolutely amazing. Of course, what they may just be saying is, "You look like nice food," but you never know. It is, it has been suggested, because Lady Zara was reading an article about cat meows the other day, that cats actually have individual sounds, which they effectively train you to understand, and the sounds are unique to each cat, so it's not like a common cat language or something like that, but they kind of learn that if they make a particular sound at a particular time, you associate it with the same thing. Just like you train animals, they train you. Yeah, I know he doesn't mean that in this particular case, because I know there's food out there. I know it's food he likes, so... He is. Yeah, well, he was quite literally just staring down the stairs. So that's the big rings. Now we've got the little tiny ones. Will they actually open in here? They will, but they're fiddly. Oh, they're walking. Just for the fun of it, this ring has a really large slot on it for really big rings, obviously. I was just going to see if it went inside, but it doesn't quite. Arguably, yeah. It's a good job I don't mind working with tiny rings. One of these days I sort of will do something like just for the fun of it, but I'll probably make a bracelet out of rings this tiny, just for the fun of it, and it will be for the fun of it as well, because there'll be about 600 or 700 rings go together to make a bracelet with this, but it won't have to look like a really dainty tiny bracelet, which will hopefully will look good. These rings are almost too small to actually pick up. So I hope everybody got things for their Christmas that they like. Which country, Coyote Dancer? I can't recall where you are. The only one that I know out there is the Ring Lord, which I think actually are Canadian, I'm not sure, but they are by reputation the best supplier. I don't know how they compare in price and things to other places, but they are, as I say, by reputation, they are the best supplier. Unfortunately, import and things mean I can't use them myself, but because of all the taxes that we get. Plus international shipping on weight is quite expensive. Okay, about halfway through these little tiny rings, but they do go quite quickly. It is an important part of the craft of chainmail. If you don't open the rings, you can't weave them. So it's kind of analogous to an artist preparing the canvas, or a carver sharpening chisels before they start. But these, surprisingly enough, these aren't the smallest rings that you. Well, of course, you can always buy rings in, especially if you have them made yourself. But these aren't the smallest rings you can get. They're getting there, but they're not quite the smallest. I think anything smaller than this, I'd definitely need a magnifying glass. Right, not too many left to go, and we can actually start the weave. It is a simple weave, is this? It's effectively, well, it is sort of a it's a sort of a one-in-one chain joined together, which I guess technically makes it a three-in-one chain, but you'll see. It's a Japanese style of weave, in that we use the large rings and join them with the little tiny rings. And as part of the chain we'll incorporate the Swarovski crystals. Right, 4 more and then we can actually start. Right, I'm just going to push them to one side because I know that when I'm making this, as the chain gets longer, it will start brushing the desk, which will then start sending them all over the place. So, fairly simple weave, as I say. We start with a single ring. Into which we put a Swarovski crystal and close the ring. And I put another ring through the crystal. Now in theory some of this I could do using speed weaving techniques, which means opening some rings and closing others before I start, but it's a little bit fiddly. So the way in which this will get built means I put a little ring here. Now I need to try and make sure that these all close successfully. At the end of it I will go over this one again because it is important that all the rings are clear, really well closed on this particular bracelet. I say that, I mean, I've never actually made this. I've made the Special Lady, which is a similar pattern, but this is a single row of crystals, which I've never actually done before. But I've done the three row bracelet before. Blimey, sometimes some words are really hard to say. And sometimes these things play hard to get in. Come on, thank you. Actually, one thing I've got to watch is I don't do that. I don't know if you can see, but what I've done is I've ended up with crystal on one side of the ring and a crystal on the opposite side of the chain. They both need to be on the same side, otherwise I start kicking myself and have to take bits of it apart. That was a mistake I made when I did the Special Lady, the 3 row. And the first time I did it, it was about I think it was about 5 rows later that I realised I put a crystal on the wrong side. So I just start by building a long chain here, really. I could make it a bracelet shape as I go along, but the experience says it's quicker to do it as a long chain and then join it into the bracelet pattern afterwards. Oh, it is for me, because everybody has their own techniques and preferences when they do these sorts of things. Yeah, well, on this one, with it being really sparkly, you do have to pay attention not only to the small details as well as the big details, like getting the crystals all on the right side is a big detail. It does kind of help, but closing the rings off well as well is one of those small details that makes a big difference. So there's 30, I think this comes out at 7.5 inch with 30 crystals, so that's what we'll be putting together here. 30 crystals in a chain. Of course, if it needs to be shorter, that's not a problem. If it needs to be longer, if I needed to make this for somebody in particular and it was needed to be longer, I'd have to buy some more crystals because I've run out when I've done this. So I only have 30 at the moment. And they're really awkward to pick up with a plier, so I'm going to pick them up by hand. Right, chain, it wants to be on that side. I'm sure before I finish this I'm going to end up with one on the wrong side. Thank you very much. They really do sparkle, don't they? But I like all the wide ones as well. I keep mentioning Special Lady because see if I can just. Here we go. I'll show those people that don't know what it is. It is in the shop, by the way, and it does pop up on the shots on the bottom left hand side from time to time. But this is a Special Lady bracelet. It's also Swarovski Crystals. There's 90, actually there's 87 in this particular bracelet. 87 crystals in 3 rows, green down the middle, an emerald colour, and clear or white as it gets called down the right hand side and left hand side. Yeah, one each side, on a sterling silver clasp at each end. That's lovely and sparkly. So this one, a Valentine's bracelet, is just going to be a single row like this. This is 3. This will be just a single row. And Moobot very nicely timed, popping up a message there for anybody who wants to go take a look. But just what I was talking about, multi-row bracelets. Lady's Hour's wearing one of my others, but there's a multi-row bracelet for you. That's a real cuff, is this? And it's quite a weighty piece. This is dragon scale. Sorry, it's so wide it doesn't go on the camera that well, but that's a deep rose and a purple inside colour. Unique colour. As far as I'm aware, this colour isn't made. It was it was made as a special order, and I got some of it, and I have enough for one more of these. It's a lovely colour, and I'm kind of saving them because there is, I forgot how many. There's about 5. I think there's about 1,000 rings in that, off the top of my head. Something like this. It's a really large number. I can't remember the exact. Somewhere between 600 and 1,000 rings, because there's about 400. Well, yeah. Every row, or every 2 rows, has got 9 pink rings and 9 purple rings, and as you can see, there's a heck of a lot of rows. So that took several hours to make. So I've just put a so a little tiny ring. So when I'm making this as a long chain, but then when the chain, what I effectively do is just fold it backwards, back on itself, zigzag style, and join the zigzags with these little tiny rings. Now, putting the Swarovski crystal on, it doesn't matter how I put it on. It's when I put the next ring on that matters. There we go. Yeah. Didn't mean to do that. Well, I did, but what I should have done before I did that was put a crystal on. These crystals are on a mount with a little ring on the back of the mount, which is how they sit with this in the chain lace. There we go. Alex Spin 178, thank you very much for following. That's most kind of you, and that one is going on the wrong way. That's better. Of course, in theory, this could be a bracelet in its own right. Just a really thin bracelet, which is quite sparkly, and I could put twice as many crystals in as well. So I mean, I could do that. Would be almost like a tennis bracelet, really thin. This one is going to have effectively sort of fold backwards and forwards. It's not very easy to show you, but it will actually be a little bit wider. So it'll have silver, like two silver rows down each side. So it'll look rather like a rather like it's sort of lacy style. And Zoki, thank you very much. That's kind of you to say so. I would hope so. Since most of the let me tip this up a little bit because I'm going out of frame. Things like the carving and the pyrography I do, as well as things like scraperboard, do mean I do have to be somewhat dexterous or handy, in other words. Of course, if somebody wanted a bracelet, or I mean, this works quite nicely for anklets as well. In this, with it being thin, if you just want to either message me on Twitch or message me on Etsy, I can make variations on this, like this, just as a simple anklet, for example. You don't actually, if you've got an idea for something, you don't actually have to wait for me to make one on stream or put one in the shop. These tiny rings are a little bit awkward to handle just because the pliers are relatively large and they kind of get in the way. So I do try and close them as best as I can at this stage. It saves a lot of work later, but in practice the rings have sort of a memory for where they were, and what happens is they do move slightly. They do sort of relax back into towards the position they held before I close them. So I do have to at the end, what I will do is I will go over the whole bracelet again and just check that it's everything is closed properly. You sometimes get wrapped up in doing things like just putting rings together that sometimes you forget the idea is to put crystals on as well. So this doesn't necessarily grow as quickly as some of the other weaves that you may see me do. Two reasons for that. They're smaller rings than quite a few other weaves, so the smaller the ring, the more rings per inch you need, and therefore it takes longer to actually sort of complete a bracelet. The other reason is well, small rings are a little bit more fiddly, but I'm having to keep putting the pliers down, for example, to pick up a crystal, and it's a little bit fiddly to put on. And that takes up time, of course, and I've got to pick the pliers back up. Often when I'm doing other ring weaves, I can do it without putting the pliers down, just like I'm picking up this ring here, and therefore that saves quite a bit of time. And that one is backwards, which slows me down, so getting it right first time helps as well. Yeah. Well, I think I got an extra ring out because that one just escaped somewhere. I'll probably find it on the floor afterwards, but I'm not going to go looking for it now. They are indeed, and they fly really fast as well. ring. I'm not bothered which way you go in, but just you're going to go in, so you might as well do it. Right, there we go. Usually these small rings, when I'm doing this, that will vanish because it's really hard to hold them, because you have to hold them quite carefully and on, sort of on the smallest edge almost, because otherwise the tweezers, the pliers themselves get in the way of the gap. And when you're trying to put another ring, put it through another ring, you basically can't because the pliers are in the way. The other one you've got with small rings is that you've got to be careful just how much you twist them as well. They if you twist them up too much, you can actually cause them to snap, which of course is not something that you want to happen. So you kind of have to open them the minimum, but then that's when you're trying to put them over not large rings but large wire gauge rings, then it can get a little bit fun. Here I'm using fun as in the Chinese curse type of fun, as in not much fun at all. That way. And rings are, in one respect, are a little bit like some computer games. In computer games, if you need 10 of something, you always find you've got 9. And with rings, when you want to pick up a ring off the desk, you always kind of want to pick it up in such a way that you can just pick it up and just straight away use it. But what you find is the rings always face the wrong direction. Don't know what it is, but they always do. Whatever way you want to pick them up, they always face the other direction. I think it's a conspiracy. Of course, it's one of those things that when the rings are the right way around, you never remember it's because they're the right way around, so it doesn't bother you and you just forget about it. So it's one of those things that you only notice when it's not working. They're not usually too bad. What tends to happen is you work hard on them, and then that's what causes them to break. But I kind of know what you mean. But you can actually open them a good 90 degrees. Now, Just bear with me a second, guys. Lady Zara just wants me to just assist her for a moment or two. I'll be back very quickly. I didn't know. This is the bigger size of two. That's fine. I can't. Okay, thank you. Fine. I didn't think it's been all over the place because it was. Well, it wasn't. It was all over the place. The wind was blowing. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Let's carry on with this. Yeah, I'm just looking at that, wondering if I've actually got the crystals on the right side. I think so. What was I saying? Oh yeah, you can actually open the rings about 90 degrees. It's they are quite tolerant of it. It's just if you do open them that far, you don't want to be doing it more than once. I'm just thinking, actually, by the time I've done this, it'll probably be almost necklace length, if not actually necklace length. And then we shorten it. Whilst I'm doing this, especially with the smaller rings, you may hear me talking to them. This is perfectly alright. If you hear them answering back, however, then get worried. If you hear me talking back to them when you hear them answering back, that's even more weird. Exilian, good evening and welcome to the studio tonight. Now, I do not want to lose that. That is one that I would have gone looking for because Swarovski crystals are not cheap. And you know there are rings, but these are more expensive. What I ought to do actually with this is have what they call a beading mat. Which is it's a bit like a felt mat, although it's not felt, because felt with either beads or chainmail, felt would actually catch in the rings, or the rings would catch in the felt. But it's kind of a fluffy material, and on the desk, if you drop a bead, it doesn't bounce; it just stops. It doesn't roll about either, or if you knock them, they don't sort of go all over the place. And I really ought to get one for doing the chainmail with, but it's another one of those jobs that will get done eventually when I happen to think about it at the time when I can get hold of one. But they are, they are a great thing for doing either beadwork with or chainmail work. You can actually use bays as well, which is the sort of stuff they put on billiard or pool tables or snooker tables. That works quite well. So Cillian, had a good Christmas? It's kind of over for another year almost. We're into the new year before long. It's useful doing this with also with a coloured material behind it, because as you close the rings you can see if there's a gap between them. If you do it with like a white background, it can actually be quite difficult to see that. I'm doing it on a wooden desk here, which is not the best. A dark colour actually works better for seeing it. Lighter colours, because I'm using silver rings here, the lighter background colours actually make it a little bit harder to see. But the other thing about the way I'm doing this is occasionally you might hear a click as I close a ring. That's because the two ends basically just catch as I close it. I will say it's kind of intentional. What I'm trying to do when I close a ring is just bring the two ends together slightly. That way the two ends push against each other, and if they're pushing against each other, friction helps stop them sliding apart. And that little click is just as I twist the two ends past each other. Well, that's 3 of the best ingredients. This chain's getting longer and getting closer to have used all the crystals, and when I do, that's when we'll start to actually put them together into the actual bracelet pattern. We've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 more crystals. actually involves putting together, I think it's 36 different 36 rings for those 9 crystals. When you're doing chainmail, it's surprising A, how many rings you actually use to do something, but just how quickly they sort of multiply up in numbers. You know, like the 9 Swarovski crystals have, I think I said 36 other rings around them. So that's just made 45, so your 9's turned into 45. I don't do this weave that often with crystals, so I'm just redeveloping the techniques that make it a little bit easier for me. Everybody, as I say, generally develops their own techniques for working with rings in chainmail. Whereas I was having a little bit of problem with getting the crystals on the right side of the chain, or actually I guess positioning the crystal correctly. And what I found is if I get hold of it with the pliers like that, I can then just sit it on my fingers quite easily, rather than messing around with trying to do it with my fingers, which are a lot bigger than the nose of these pliers. Yeah. Got a Felix at the end of the desk. I was just deciding to go on to the other desk. The past few days we've had 3 cats here with us in the studio. Sat nowhere near on camera, I'm afraid, but okay, so that one wants to be the other way. But there must be something about all the stuff going on that makes them want to be around. Tutti Frutti! Good evening. Or Fruitsy, I suppose, not Fruitsy. Welcome to the studio. And another 4 of these to put on. Oh, come on, players. Thank you. These are one of the best players for gripping rings, but even so, sometimes like them, they just refuse to grasp a ring properly. And what happens is it twists slightly in the jaws or spins, and it makes it hard to close. These pliers are all, they're non-serrated, they've got flat insides so that they don't actually scratch any of the rings. But it potentially makes it a little bit harder to grasp things, because those serrations are what make it easier for you to hold things with pliers. I want opening a little bit more. I can't count. I know one of these big silver rings escaped, but I am a little bit short of... Oh, actually, I'm short by one. So I can count. So I'll almost finish the stringing, and then we'll go on and actually do the pattern. I will need to get out another silver ring. One more. See if I can get one out without dragging a whole load out. I just want one. Thank you. Twist this open. You can do the twist. You don't need to use the ring opening ring. You can just use pliers, as I just did. Okay, so I should have what is close to a 21-inch chain at the moment. So you kind of could use it as a necklace, I guess. Nah, there's something wrong there, I think. Alright, let's check this out. I think I have got one backwards. Yep. I switched one right in the middle, almost in the middle. So let me just check. I think it's not too bad. What I can do is just open this small ring here, split the chain into two, and then just reattach it. So despite trying to be really careful, I managed to reverse the chain halfway through. Okay. Now, as I say, whilst you could use this perhaps as a necklace, or even a bracelet on its own, as you can see, they tend to twist very easily, which is, is different, but you kind of like the sparkly bit to show sparkly all the time, which is why what we're going to do now is actually make the bracelet a little bit wider, and in making it a little bit wider it's more likely to stay the right way round. And we do that by making it double width, basically, like that. So this may be more obvious once I've done a few, and this at the start it's quite awkward to try and hold this. And this will be more awkward than previously, because with the 3-row it's a bit easier, you've got more to get hold of. This is a single row of crystals, which is a lot narrower. I still have to be really careful not to invert the chain. Oh, there's that ring that was missing. Yeah, oops, there's it. Where's it? There we go. It's starting to come together. It will actually hold better with a clasp on the end, but unfortunately I don't have a clasp to hand at the moment. I'm just waiting for the order to come in. But once the with a clasp on the end, it actually will hold this in shape a lot better, and you'll get a better view of this particular pattern. And so I'll do a few more. It'll become more visible as I do more. Ultimate T-Bear, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Just the rings getting tangled with each other. Lace chains like this can be challenging, shall we say, just because they are so fluid and loose that it can sometimes just be a little bit frustrating as you're trying to pick up a ring or whatever, just trying to hold everything in one hand. But what makes it worthwhile is the fact that they do also look really nice once they're done. looks like we're almost halfway through joining this chain together. That side. Okay, some of these have not been opened enough. And a little bit awkward, so I'm just going to open them a touch more. Because trying to do it while holding on to the bracelet is more than a little awkward. Thanks. 7. Looks fine. Yeah, sometimes opening the rings too far can also be counterproductive because the positioning of them, when they're twisted, when they're open, they're in a sort of a twisted position, and in this particular weave it doesn't matter quite so much, but in some weaves that having a ring too open can actually make it really difficult to actually get the ring into the weave in the right place. You kind of imagine it makes it wider top to bottom. When you're trying to get that through a small gap, that width becomes a problem. So sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. Opening them just enough but not too far. Not far to go now. And the last ring, or at least for the moment. So these style of bracelets always want to roll themselves into tubes, which is why I'm using a clasp like that, but with that's shorter on the end, because it then holds the edges apart. But there we go, a Valentine's bracelet. with red Swarovski crystals, and the having the silver lace chain around it rather than one long strand makes it easy for it to sit like that and stay with the crystals sparkling in the light. It gives it a little bit more width as well. Makes it look a little bit more what would you call it? A show bracelet rather than the sort of one that you hide underneath your underneath a collar like me or a cuff. Right, well, as soon as they order for the sterling silver clasp, because I put sterling silver clasps on these, especially this one because of the value of it, but I use sterling silver because some people when they wear silver plate, for example, will wear it off in a matter of hours. It's just the oils on the skin react to the silver plating, and it comes off really quickly. So I put sterling silver on because that doesn't. I could also use surgical steel, but it doesn't look as nice. Sterling silver has one on here, for example. It's almost the same colour. You can't see that, but unless I do that, so I'll put it in my hand. But for your sterling silver, the silver colour is almost the same, whereas if I use surgical steel, which also would be a reasonable choice, the surgical steel looks dull and grey compared to the silver of the rings. But there we go. That will be it for tonight, guys. So unfortunately I can't finish it, but I will as soon as I get the clasp, and then this will go onto the shop, which I of course do recommend that you check out. The images that this camera's reversed. The images that you've been seeing at the bottom left there, most of them are from the shop. Certainly the jewellery. The pyrography and the scraper board and the punchcraft and the carving that you'll see there may at some point go into the shop, but not just yet. So do recommend you check it out. So I am going to call it a night, as I say. I will say, if you're not following me, then I would recommend that you do so. That way you'll get to know when I go live again, because Twitch will tell you, or it should. You can also follow me on Twitter. It's @ZaragonArt. I do tweet when I go live and when I put new things like this into the shop or other interesting jewellery or craft related items. On the other hand, if you just like to try and catch me, what's tomorrow? Maybe I should well be on tomorrow. From about 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours GMT, or roughly about 2 hours ago. In whatever time zone you're in. Not sure what we'll be doing tomorrow. We shall see when it happens. Could be pyrography, or it could be some more chain work. Not sure. See how I feel. Thank you all for watching. It has been fun. Hope to see you again in the studio in the future. Bye for now.